Chapter 832, Lin Chia's First Lesson. Ming Lu stood on the ground suddenly looking up at the sky. He saw a deep red figure holding a snow-white long knife, having appeared in midair beneath the night sky at some unknown time, with a pair of dazzling golden eyes coldly gazing down at him. Lin Chia's appearance left the surrounding new recruits stunned. They were certainly familiar with that Sun Wukong mask. After all, just half an hour ago he was considered the evil representative of the ancient God Church, here to eradicate all new recruits. Yet just moments ago he had effortlessly knocked Ming Lu down, leaving the new recruits bewildered. Who exactly was the villain? Under the night sky, Lin Chia raised his hand and gently grasped the air above the ground. The night spread out like a tide. In the next moment, several warehouse buildings in the training camp trembled violently, as the vast amounts of steel bars, weapons, and straight knives were drenched in the night and shot into the sky. Darkest invasion. Under the encroachment of the night, the steel that could cover the entire sky rapidly folded, intertwined, and twisted, instantly transforming into a steel dome that enveloped the surrounding mountains and the training camp, suspended beneath the night. At the moment this steel dome appeared, all the new recruits were left in a daze. The power displayed by Lin Chia was something they had never seen before, nor even heard of. Was this scene truly achievable by human strength? On the ground, Ming Lu frowned as he looked at the steel dome above him, unable to fathom what Lin Chia was trying to do. At that moment, the void behind him began to ripple silently. A massive white bear stepped out of the void, suddenly embracing Ming Lu's body. In the next instant, both of them vanished into the void, reappearing on top of the steel dome suspended in the sky. Beneath his feet was the sky, and above him was the ground where the training camp was located. He looked up and could see the scene within the training camp, and similarly when the new recruits in the training camp looked up, they could see everything happening above the steel dome. "This battlefield is too small, we will fight here." A voice came from afar. Ming Lu turned to look and saw the man in the deep red cloak sitting on a pitch-black steel throne in the center of the dome, squinting his golden eyes and looking down at him. Ming Lu glanced down at the steel dome beneath his feet and then at the man seated on the steel throne, who was looking down at him with a gaze filled with unprecedented anger. Whether it was the appearance of the steel dome, the white bear forcibly abducting him, or the imposing steel throne, along with that condescending gaze, all indicated one thing. He was being underestimated. He felt like a monkey about to perform in a circus, forcibly brought to this venue under the watchful eyes of countless spectators, beginning his circus act. From the moment he was knocked to the ground by Lin Chia's aura, he had completely fallen into the opponent's rhythm. And this was precisely what Lin Chia wanted. The reason he went to such lengths to create this steel dome was, on one hand, to shift the battlefield and prevent the aftermath of their fight from harming the new recruits. After all, battles at the infinite level could pose a deadly threat to any new recruit from even the slightest residual force. On the other hand, it was to show those new recruits what high-level combat truly looked like. There was not much time left for these new recruits to develop peacefully. Perhaps soon they would be heading to the battlefield, where they would no longer face the minor skirmishes of the pool or river realms, but the real battlefield. Since it was a battlefield, it certainly wouldn't only involve low-level combat. They would eventually have to confront the oppression of sea, infinite, or even Klein-level enemies. They had to face strength directly, understand it so they wouldn't lose their lives in the chaos of the battlefield. Lin Chia had initially planned to teach this lesson to the new recruits later, but since the ancient God Church had delivered it to him, he didn't mind accepting these natural teaching materials. The preliminary assessment was not over yet, but Lin Chia's lesson had already begun. "Come." Lin Chia spoke lightly from the steel throne, "Use your full strength to attack me." These words, filled with disdain and provocation, instantly made Ming Lu's lungs feel like they were about to explode. He had worked hard to use the magic ring to restore his strength, intending to slaughter the Nightfall team and the instructors, but now he was being so underestimated, a strong sense of disparity flooded his mind. Seeking death. Ming Lu growled lowly, and a divine ruin spread out from him, instantly covering the entire steel dome. Dense dark energy surged around Ming Lu, and with a flip of his palm, an ancient lantern appeared in his hand, emitting a chilling dark red glow. An alluring ghostly eye slowly opened from the flame of the wick. Training camp. While all the new recruits were captivated by the astonishing steel dome and throne in the sky, and Qingyu's eyes narrowed as she suddenly charged towards the other two members of the ancient god church. Shen Qingzhu and Jiang Er followed closely behind, while Bai Li Pangpang and Chao Yuan rushed in from a distance. Except for the lost immortal Jialan, the remaining members of the Nightfall team coordinated seamlessly, simultaneously beginning to hunt down the last two members of the ancient god church. Yuan instructor, there's no need to relief of the town market steal. And Qingyu said through the earpiece to the instructors below, Chia can handle the one who has restored his strength. We will deal with the other two. If we relief of the town market steal now, it will turn into a chaotic battle at the infinite level which could harm the new recruits. I understand. Yuan Gang's serious voice came through the earpiece. Be careful. Snap. A crisp sound of fingers snapping echoed, and a surge of flames formed a wall of fire under the pressure of the air, completely sealing off the escape route for the other two members of the ancient god church. At the same time, Bai Li Pangpang, the Mad Chao Yuan, Shen Qingzhu, and Qingyu charged into the fire from 4 different directions, with forbidden items, black flames, fire, and frost overwhelming the two members of the ancient god church. Among them, the young recruit possessed by Jiang Er chose to charge headlong into the murderous flames. Although Jiang Er was ejected from his body due to extreme fear, the young recruit was severely injured, spitting out a mouthful of blood and collapsing to the ground. The others rushed in, quickly subduing the last person. Pang, tie them all up. And Qingyu said to Bai Li Pang, looking at the two who had completely lost their combat ability. Bai Li Pang chuckled, pulling out 2 ropes from his pocket and walking towards the two with a cold smile. It's now in my area of expertise. Chapter 833, Battle of the Dark Willow. Among the 2 fallen members of the ancient god church, the young recruit struggled to lift his head, watching the approaching Bai Li with a cold smile, his eyes flickering uncertainly. In the end, it seemed he had made a decision, taking a deep breath as a surge of dark energy erupted from his chest. You. Beside him, the female recruit from the ancient god church trembled at the sight. Fall back. And Qingyu's pupils constricted as she quickly issued the order. The members of Team Nightfall hesitated not for a moment and rapidly retreated. Boom. A burst of extreme dark energy engulfed the 2 members of the ancient god church. As the terrifying wave of power dissipated, the surrounding earth and vegetation showed no signs of damage. Only the lifeless bodies of the 2 members slumped to the ground, motionless. Did they just commit suicide? Jiang Er asked in confusion. And Qingyu frowned and approached their bodies, a flicker of gray light appearing in her eyes as she began to analyze them. Body dead, soul gone, they should be dead? And Qingyu murmured to herself. After a moment she shook her head. Forget it, after this is over, let's take these 2 bodies back for dissection. We should find out then. Bang bang bang. In the night sky, 3 consecutive booming sounds echoed, thick smoke rising from the inverted steel dome, instantly capturing everyone's attention. No one noticed that a barely perceptible dark light flashed through the earth, entering a deep pit and silently drilling into Lu Baoyu's body. Lu Baoyu frowned, seemingly sensing something, and looked down at his palm, a hint of confusion appearing in his eyes. But in the end he found nothing and turned back to gaze at the sky, watching the 2 figures battling in the steel dome. Too strong, Lu Baoyu murmured. How can he be this strong? Just how much power was he hiding? Initially, Lu Baoyu felt somewhat unconvinced about his defeat. But now, seeing Lin Chia unleash his full strength, hammering down on Ming Lu above the steel dome, he truly realized just how vast the gap between them was. The roaring explosions continued to echo from the steel dome. Ming Lu held the lantern of the underworld, where the eye at the wick compressed endless underworld energy to its limit, then exploded, tearing apart everything within a vast range into fragments. Lin Chia wielded the white blade, his figure darting like a ghost between the void and reality. No matter how violently Ming Lu's underworld energy exploded, it could not affect him in the slightest. Of course, with Jialan's immortal protecting him, even if Chia charged blindly towards Ming Lu with his eyes closed, he would suffer no harm. However, this would make his movements easy to predict, allowing Ming Lu to anticipate his position and evade attacks. But once he concealed his figure in the void, he became an invisible specter, and Minglu had no idea from which direction he would strike. Concealing and revealing, Minglu's gaze swept warily around, speaking coldly. The lantern in his palm suddenly burst forth with blinding light, a massive ring of underworld energy sweeping through the surroundings like a tidal wave, shattering the steel dome beneath his feet inch by inch. Countless steel fragments rained down from the sky. At that moment, Lin Chia stepped out from the storm of steel fragments, a sharp blade of light piercing the sky, directly slashing towards Minglu's neck. Buzz. The lantern in Minglu's hand brightened once more, and under the surge of underworld energy, it shattered the blade of light into nothingness. Lin Chia raised an eyebrow, extending his hand to grasp the scattered steel fragments. The pitch-black night spread from the hem of his clothing, instantly covering the surface of all the fragments. The countless steel fragments froze in midair, then rapidly converged towards the center, ultimately forming a massive black steel blade, howling as it slashed towards Minglu in the sky under the control of the night. At the same time, Lin Chia, descending from the sky with the white blade, gazed at Minglu below, his deep red cloak billowing in the fierce wind. "How about you try taking this blade?" Lin Chia spoke calmly, raising the white blade high. A deep shade of night climbed up the blade's edge, and at the same time, the enormous steel blade shooting up from the ground also absorbed a touch of night. In that instant, the steel blade, Minglu, and Lin Chia were all aligned along the same vertical line. Two streaks of pitch-black blade light slashed out from the steel blade and the white blade, one above and one below, forming a cross that closed in on Minglu in the center, the dark blade light surging in the night sky as if to sever the stars above. Star-cleaving technique. This cross-shaped blade light pierced through heaven and earth, and the lantern in Minglu's hand erupted with unprecedented brilliance, endless underworld energy rolling as if trying to withstand this earth-shattering strike. However, beneath the cross-blade light, this underworld energy only held for half a second before collapsing. The cross-blade light easily sliced through Minglu's body, shattering the lantern in his hand into fragments, and Minglu's flesh scattered in the air. He stared blankly at the deep red figure standing above him, holding the blade, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Tizong, that man is too strong." Clearly they were both divine agents, yet in the same realm how could he be this powerful? Is this the strength of a special team leader? Minglu couldn't comprehend it and had no chance to ponder further. His consciousness rapidly dissipated, the last flicker of life extinguished along with the surge of night. A member of the ancient god church, the agent of the Greek god of the underworld, easily fell to Lin Chia's hands. His flesh scattered to the ground along with the rain of steel fragments, and the recruits in the training camp who witnessed the entire battle fell into a deep silence. They were profoundly shaken. At that moment, the deep red figure standing under the night sky, holding the white blade, was deeply etched in their minds, and even decades later they would not forget a single detail. Meanwhile, a question arose in the minds of all the surviving recruits. Who exactly is he? Before they could ponder too long, Lin Chia in the night sky calmly raised his right hand and snapped his fingers at the remaining recruits on the training ground below. Boom! An invisible wave of pressure slammed into the training ground, and in an instant, all the recruits felt darkness envelop them, collapsing one after another to the ground. In the entire training camp aside from Team Nightfall, no one else stood there. Chapter 834. Accountability of Anqingyu. In the spacious indoor training ground, over 600 new recruits lay neatly on the ground. Several instructors stood around the training area, exchanging glances and nodding to each other before stepping up to each sleeping recruit, delivering a kick to their backsides to wake them up. "Wake up. Still sleeping? The sun's already shining on your backsides. Get up. Do you think this is a nursing home?" As the instructors shouted, the more than 600 recruits gradually awakened, sitting up with dazed expressions, looking around in confusion. Who am I? Where am I? How did I end up here? Didn't the ancient god church invade? Weren't the instructors all sacrificed? Isn't the great Xia already doomed? What's going on? Among the crowd, the unconscious Ding Chongfeng was also kicked awake by an instructor. He took a full 10 seconds to gather his thoughts before his brain started functioning again. The ancient god church invasion, the annihilation of the instructors, the assembly in the hall, the final battle with the enemy, and then Brother Shen put on the fox mask. Ding Chongfeng recalled the scene he vaguely saw before losing consciousness, then turned to look at the lively instructors around him as if he had figured something out, his mouth involuntarily gaping open. Damn it, I've been played. Indoor training ground, second floor. Yuan Gang and the others watched the new recruits below gradually waking up, letting out a long sigh of relief. Although there were some unexpected events, fortunately, none of the recruits were harmed, which is a small blessing in misfortune. Instructor Yuan. Beside him, and Qingyu carrying a black coffin spoke calmly. Although you are the chief instructor of this training camp and a senior to Chia and the others, there are some things I must say. And Qingyu turned to him, slightly furrowing his brows. This time, if we hadn't happened to serve as special guest instructors and detected the possibility of the ancient god church's existence in advance, along with the cooperation of Chia and Jelon, this batch of over 600 recruits would have been in real danger. Of course, I don't doubt your concern for these recruits and your sense of responsibility. I believe that at critical moments, you would risk your lives to protect these kids. But even so, in the best-case scenario, even if these recruits could be saved, your instructors would still be annihilated here. Regardless of the situation, the final outcome would be a heavy blow to the Great Xia. I understand that this large-scale recruitment of new recruits has greatly increased your workload, but even so, such a low-level mistake should not have occurred. And Qingyu's words were very pertinent, and what he said was undeniable fact. Some things Lin Chia and the others couldn't or wouldn't say, but Qingyu could. He wasn't someone who came out of the training camp, so he could speak boldly to instructors like Yuan Gang without any hesitation. Hearing this, there was no displeasure on Yuan Gang's face. Instead, he nodded solemnly. You're right, the responsibility for this matter lies with me. I won't evade responsibility. I will report truthfully to the higher-ups and accept all punishments. Yuan Gang paused, hesitated for a moment but couldn't help but say. But to be honest, I still can't understand. What? Perhaps saying this might make it seem like I want to evade responsibility, but, Yuan Gang sighed, I have personally checked the files of these over 600 recruits multiple times. I verified everyone's background, family relationships and social connections with intelligence data, and all of them are real. There shouldn't be any possibility of outsiders mixing in. And Qingyu was taken aback, asking in confusion. You mean you've verified all their information? Exactly, I'm absolutely confident about this. There can't be any mistakes. Could it be that all the information in the files is real, but the recruits who came to participate in the training were swapped out? Impossible. To prevent such situations, we use forbidden items to verify each person's DNA during the registration process. Even if there are people who can alter their genes, it's impossible for 3 of them to appear at the same time. So, the possibility of being swapped out has been ruled out. And Qingyu's eyes narrowed slightly as if he was pondering something. By the way, Yuan Gang seemed to remember something. We found a new recruit who is suspected to be a member of the ancient god church at the shooting range in the training camp. But when we discovered him, he was already knocked out. He is currently being controlled and interrogated. I don't know if we can extract any clues. If there are any survivors, investigating will indeed be easier. And Qingyu nodded in agreement. What about Lin Chia? Yuan Gang looked around but didn't find Lin Chia among the members of the Nightfall team on the second floor. He has something to deal with and should be back soon. Outside the training camp. Injured all over, Lu Baoyu limped through the entrance of the training camp, heading outside. After an unknown amount of time, he slowly stopped, turned back to take one last look at the training camp, his eyes filled with complex emotions. In the end, he still couldn't enter this training camp. At that time, Lin Chia had used his aura to stun nearly all the recruits, and only Lu Baoyu, under the protection of the fallen angel's divine might, barely managed to stay awake. However, this time he chose not to persist in staying at the training camp but instead quietly left on his own. He originally thought he knew what he wanted, but after battling Lin Chia he felt somewhat lost. He always felt like he had overlooked something important. There were still many things he hadn't figured out. So he chose to leave. After leaving, he didn't know where to go or what to do. At that moment, Lin Chia's words echoed in his ears again. You don't have to answer me now. For your father's sake, I won't kill you this time. Get out of this training camp and go home. When you find the answer, come back to find me. Go home. Why do they all want him to go home? Lu Baoyu didn't understand, but he had a vague premonition that the answer Lin Chia wanted him to find was at home. Thinking of this, a glimmer of clarity appeared in Lu Baoyu's confused eyes, and he gradually quickened his pace toward the train station. He didn't notice that at this moment outside the training camp, a figure quietly emerged from the void. Lin Chia gazed at the gradually receding figure, his brows slightly furrowed as if he was deep in thought. After a moment he seemed to have made a decision, lightly brushing his hand over the hilt of Shunbai. Dabai. He spoke light. Boss. A massive shadow of a void bear appeared behind Lin Chia. What's your command? Follow him but don't let him notice. Lin Chia paused then continued. If he goes home and ultimately walks down the wrong path, don't hesitate. Eliminate him directly. Understood. Chapter 835. Battlefield. Indoor training ground. Basically, all the new recruits have awakened from their stupor, standing together in confusion and discussing in a chaotic manner. What's going on? Why are the instructors still here? Didn't they all sacrifice themselves? Yeah. We saw their bodies with our own eyes. Did anyone see that battle under the steel sky? So cool. So shocking. I saw it. The captain of that fake Nightfall squad was incredibly strong. Can humans really reach that level? Toei. You don't really think that captain of the Nightfall squad is fake, do you? What do you mean? It's obvious this is a trial set up by the instructors. Pretending that the training camp was taken over by the cult of the ancient gods, creating a high-pressure, terrifying atmosphere to force us to use all our strength. It was all fake. But I think Brother Ding and Brother Shin's analysis was spot on, very natural. It didn't seem fake at all. Wait, has anyone seen Brother Shin? In the crowd, Ding Chongfeng was surrounded by a group of puzzled new recruits. No matter how they pressed him, he remained silent, his expression grim. His gaze was fixed on the platform on the second floor as if searching for something. Seven Knight is back. Leaning against the railing, Chao Yuan saw Lin Chia returning from outside, holding the empty hilt of the white blade, and turned to look at Yuan Gang. Yeah, from now on it's up to you guys. Yuan Gang glanced at the noisy new recruits and said. Lin Chia smiled, his gaze sweeping over the other members of the Nightfall squad. Let's go, and formally greet our new recruits. On the second floor of the indoor training ground, 7 figures clad in deep red slowly emerged. Upon seeing those familiar masks, the noisy new recruits fell silent at once, and the training ground was instantly enveloped in dead silence. On their faces there was fear, confusion, excitement, and calmness. At this moment most of them had already guessed the situation, but facing these masks they still felt a bit scared. After all, Lin Chia and the others were such excellent actors. Their evil and terrifying images had been deeply etched in the minds of the new recruits. Seeing those masks, the new recruits instinctively recalled the scenes of dismemberment, dissection, and the nurturing of the evil mysterious. Lin Chia looked down at the new recruits, whose expressions varied, slowly lowered his head and removed the Sun Wukong mask, revealing his original face as he smiled gently at the many new recruits below. Let me reintroduce myself. I am Lin Chia, the captain of the Nightfall squad, and I am also the special instructor for this new recruit training. Upon seeing Lin Chia's true face, the new recruits gasped in shock. They never expected that beneath that mask was such a young and handsome face. He looked only 3 or 4 years older than them. So young, and he's already the captain of a special squad? After Lin Chia, Bai Li, Chao Yuan and Qingyu Jiaolon Zhang Er, and Shin Qingzhu also took off their masks in turn. Wow. Brother Shin. Isn't that Brother Shin? Brother Shin, how? Is he an undercover agent? This is completely unexpected. By the way, it was Brother Shin who first suggested the invasion of the cult of the ancient gods and later incited us to confront them in battle. Why are all the members of the Nightfall squad so young? Yeah, they seem only a little older than us. After the members of the Nightfall squad took off their masks, the fear on the faces of the new recruits dissipated as those young faces, which looked quite similar to theirs, were indeed very approachable. You all performed well in this preliminary assessment, Lin Chia said calmly. But in the end, until the time was up, none of you managed to break any of the masks. I think you all know what that means. The new recruits fell silent again. The vast majority of them had almost forgotten about this matter. After all, in a life-and-death crisis, who would still think about breaking those masks to earn a chance to graduate directly? They were barely holding on to their lives. "That's not fair," one of the new recruits said unhappily. "You sent people to infiltrate the new recruits, misleading our thought process and spreading panic. We couldn't seriously try to break the masks." "Is that so?" Lin Chia looked calmly at the speaking recruit. "Are you saying that the enemies you couldn't defeat even at the cost of your lives could be beaten if you just put in a little, serious, effort?" The recruit was stunned for a moment but still stubbornly retorted. "Regardless, you did use the underhanded tactic of infiltration. That's cheating." "Cheating?" Lin Chia sneered twice. "On the real battlefield, as long as you can achieve victory, who cares what means you use? Infiltration and subversion are the most common surprise attack techniques. Do you think the enemy will agree to a set of rules with you in advance, promising not to place infiltrators beside you? On the battlefield, if you remain as unguarded as you are now, completely led by the nose, you might not even know how you died. But this isn't a battlefield. This is a training camp. We're still just new recruits." Hearing this, Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly, and a faint pressure emanated from him. "This isn't a battlefield?" He glanced back at Qingyu, who immediately understood and threw the heads of Ming Lu and the other two down from the second floor, which rolled to the feet of all the new recruits. The sudden appearance of the three heads startled many new recruits. "From the moment you stepped into the training camp, you were already on the battlefield." Lin Chia pointed at the three heads and slowly spoke. "Did you think what Instructor Shin said was all fictional? Wrong. Among you, there are indeed 3 genuine members of the cult of the ancient gods infiltrated. Their goal is to kill all of you, causing a gap in the number of Night Watchers, thereby inflicting heavy damage on the Great Xia. I believe some of you have already witnessed my battle with them. They know very well whether it was real or not." Upon hearing this, the new recruits began to chatter again, whispering to each other, their faces showing panic and fear. The recruit who had been opposing Lin Chia all along turned pale, silently lowering his head and no longer speaking. Lin Chia observed everyone's reactions and continued calmly. 5 years ago I stood in this position just like you. The instructors told us that stepping through this door did not mean you had become a Night Watcher, because you had yet to prove that you were qualified to become one. But now the situation is different. Here I want to tell you that from the moment you step through this door, you are Night Watchers. You cannot withdraw, you cannot turn back. Perhaps in the eyes of other Night Watchers, you are new recruits, rookies, but when the war truly comes, you are Night Watchers. And now the reason you are gathered here is that we hope that when that moment arrives, you will have the skills and strength to survive in the brutal war. This is the purpose of our special instructors and this training camp. Chapter 836. Welcome to Hell. Lin Chia's words resonated powerfully, echoing in the spacious room. The new recruits downstairs fell silent simultaneously. Because of this, I hope you are mentally prepared. Lin Chia's gaze swept over the youthful faces. Your training will be more brutal than any previous cohort, and our training methods will be quite unique. Lin Chia lowered his head and slowly put on the Sun Wukong mask once again. In the dim light of the room, Lin Chia and his 7 companions stood cloaked in deep red, the Sun Wukong mask grinning silently. Lin Chia raised his hand and gently pressed in the air. Around the indoor training ground, dazzling magic circles lit up one after another, and terrifying energy waves rippled out from these circles. One after another, grotesque and fearsome mysteries, clad in deep green uniforms, emerged from the magic circles, their gazes fixed on the surrounded recruits, exuding a chilling aura of terror. Most of them were at the pool realm with a few at the river realm. These suddenly appearing mysteries left the recruits in the training ground dumbfounded. They crowded toward the center in panic, trying to distance themselves from the mysteries surrounding them, their eyes filled with fear and shock. Mysteries. So many mysteries. Where did these monsters come from? Damn, why are there so many? Wait. I still want to confirm. That man standing above, is he really not the villain? Indeed. What normal night watchman would raise so many mysteries? This summoning of mysteries stunned not only the recruits but also instructors like Yuan. They nervously turned to Lin Chia, and after he gave them a reassuring look, they breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, Lin Chia could control these mysteries. However, a question also arose in all their minds. Just how many tricks does Lin Chia have? They might never guess that what appeared in the training ground was merely the tip of the iceberg of Lin Chia's vast army of caretakers. Originally, there were over 300 caretakers in Lin Chia's hospital, and after the battle at Shenlong Pass, this number surged to 400, with the largest group being the mysteries at the Pool and River realms. With Lin Chia's current mental energy reserves, he could summon nearly 100 caretakers of this level in one go. This number was more than sufficient to manage the over 600 new recruits. In the shadows of the second floor, Lin Chia looked down at the recruits and spoke. From now on you only need to do two things. Survive and learn. Lin Chia raised both hands and nearly 100 caretakers roared simultaneously, each exuding their own pressure. The roar echoed in the empty room like thunder, causing some of the more timid recruits to collapse to the ground in fright. Newbies. The corners of Lin Chia's mouth curled into a smile beneath the mask. Welcome to hell. Jialan Pass. Suoqing finished the last document and slumped into his chair, turning his gaze to the window, only to see the towering steel walls, letting out a helpless sigh. Commander, are you thinking of returning to the capital? Qin Moyu standing nearby asked. No, I was just wondering when the war will end. Commander, the war hasn't even started yet, Qin Moyu replied with a wry smile. Suoqing did not respond, merely shrugged. Who knows? The waters of this war are too deep. Perhaps in places we cannot see, this war has already quietly begun. Suoqing paused as if recalling something. By the way, where is the mask team? It's been so many days and they haven't returned to report. Not yet. Strange. Could they be on a holiday? Suoqing frowned in confusion. Qin Moyu chuckled. After all, they have been working hard for so long. Wanting to rest a few more days is normal. Suoqing remained silent for a moment, his frown deepening, and ultimately shook his head. No, Wang Mian is not that kind of person. Moyu, use my phone to call Wang Mian and ask about the situation. If everything is fine, tell them to extend their holiday and relax a few more days before coming back. Understood. Qin Moyu turned and left the office. Suoqing sat in his chair, feeling inexplicably restless. Just then the office phone rang. Suoqing picked up the phone. Hello. Yuan Gang? What happened? The ancient god church? Suoqing was taken aback and his expression grew serious. I understand. Write me a detailed report about this incident, and as for your punishment, we'll discuss it after I review the document. After hanging up, Suoqing sat at his desk, deep in thought. Yuan Gang's call was to report a sudden incident at the training camp. Although there were no casualties, the secrets behind this matter compelled Suoqing to take it seriously. Although Yuan Gang did not say it directly, he hinted that he had not found any issues in the new recruits' files. If what he said was true, it indicated that there was a problem in other aspects of the Night Watchman's operations. Suoqing closed his eyes, recalling the entire process of recruiting new recruits for the Night Watchman, from proposal planning to initial screening of recruits, to information collection and aggregation, followed by secondary screening, and finally verification and archiving. Knock knock knock. Urgent knocking interrupted Suoqing's thoughts. Come in, he said, opening his eyes. Qin Moyu rushed in, holding Suoqing's phone, his face extremely grave. Commander Zhuo, Wang Mian's phone signal is out of service, and I can't reach any other members of the masked team. What? Suoqing stood up from his seat, his brow furrowing tightly. Can't reach them? Yes, I've already asked the technical department to track the phone signal's location. We should have results soon. Suoqing stood at his desk, his heart sinking completely. The mask team would not just go missing. Since all their phone signals were disconnected, it meant something must have gone wrong. But Suoqing couldn't understand how a few days off for the mask team could lead to any accidents. His peripheral vision caught the office's landline, and his mind flashed back to the incident Yuan Gang had just reported. He vaguely sensed that a conspiracy against the Night Watchman was slowly surfacing. The ancient god church invading the training camp, and the disappearance of the masked team. Could these two events be connected in some way? Chapter 837, 12 Agents. Hey, do you think Instructor Lin is serious? As night fell, the new recruits in the dormitory were washing up. The atmosphere was oppressive and silent, lacking the vibrant energy they had when they first entered the training camp that morning. as if they were burdened by some unspoken worries. What do you think? The recruit beside him rolled his eyes and pointed to the rooftop of the opposite dormitory building. Under the moonlight, endless spider silk covered the space between the floors, and a gigantic menacing humanoid spider lay quietly in the high air, its crimson compound eyes constantly staring down at the new recruits below, exuding a chilling terror. The recruit who had asked the question couldn't help but swallow hard. But didn't he say that the formal training starts tomorrow? Yeah, otherwise that spider wouldn't just be watching us, it would have jumped down and chased us. Isn't that a bit ridiculous? Is it really that vicious? I don't believe it. It's probably just like the previous assessment, creating this tense atmosphere to squeeze out our potential. I think so too. What kind of night watchman trains recruits like this? Among the chattering crowd, Fong Mo calmly set down his toothbrush, draped a towel over his shoulder and silently walked back to the dormitory. At that moment he paused as if sensing something and suddenly turned to look downstairs. A deep red figure silently flashed by. Fong Mo's eyes gradually lit up. Lord Chia. A few minutes later, Fong Mo, dressed in new recruit attire, hurriedly ran to the shadow at the edge of the dormitory building, speaking excitedly. Lin Chia turned around helplessly and made a shushing gesture at him. Keep your voice down. Did anyone else see you come over? No, Lord Chia. Good, follow me. Lin Chia led Fong Mo silently across most of the training camp, arriving at the top of the teaching building, where he sat down at the edge of the rooftop. Sit down. There are some things I want to talk to you about, Lin Chia said, patting the space beside him with a smile. Fong Mo nodded and sat down next to Lin Chia, feeling a bit shy. Lord Chia, if you have any questions I will answer honestly, Fong Mo said sincerely. No need to be so formal. Lin Chia felt a bit embarrassed by Fong Mo's demeanor. I just want to ask how you left Songnan and how you came to be under Yang Jian's tutelage. Have you entered the heavenly court? Fong Mo carried too many mysteries, all of which were tied to the secrets of the great Xia, so Lin Chia was naturally curious. Of course, what he most wanted to know was the current state of the heavenly court. After all, the condition of the heavenly court would directly determine Great Xia's position and ultimate outcome in this war. Fong Mo hummed in acknowledgement, pondering for a moment as if considering where to start. 5 years ago, the night you, Lord Chia, left Songnan, after the miracle dissipated, all of us children born in Songnan within the last 10 years were gathered in one place, preparing to be sent to different orphanages for adoption. At that time we didn't know those people. I only recently learned that those in dark red cloaks helping us find a home were the night watchmen. The night before we left Songnan, a sudden wind swept through the place where we children were living, and then a weak man and a celestial-looking Taoist walked out of the wind. That man became my later master, Yang Jian. Upon hearing the word Taoist, Lin Chia couldn't help but recall the mysterious Taoist who had appeared in his illusions and whom he had seen in Fengdu, one of the 3 pure ones of Great Xia mythology, the primordial heavenly sovereign. The man beside him was the true monarch of Clear Source, Yang Jian. But why was Yang Jian weak? Who had injured him? Fong Mo paused before continuing. That night my master and the Taoist chose 12 children among us Songnan orphans, those with the most concentrated miraculous power within them, to take away from Songnan. I was the first to be selected among those 12 children. 12 children. Lin Chia was taken aback. So, there are 11 others like you? Exactly. Fong Mo nodded. After we left Songnan, we rode clouds to a strange mountain range. Among the mountains I could vaguely see a huge golden silhouette, with blurry figures flying back and forth around it. My master opened a cave for us to live in on a mountain near the golden silhouette. What did that golden silhouette look like? Lin Chia couldn't help but ask. Fong Mo thought for a moment. It looked like a shattered palace? We were too far away at the time, and there was some thin mist surrounding the silhouette, so we couldn't see what was inside at all. Lin Chia pondered. If nothing unexpected happened, that would be the heavenly court that the great Xia gods had been trying to repair. But the question was, why did Yang Jian and the primordial heavenly sovereign bring these 12 children near the heavenly court and specifically build a cave for them to stay? So, did you all become Yang Jian's disciples? No, not really. Fong Mo shook his head. That night we arrived, 12 great Xia gods flew out from the golden silhouette and came to the cave where we were sitting. Each one chose a child to take as their disciple. I was the child chosen by my master at that time. Hearing this, Lin Chia understood the situation. These 12 children were selected by the primordial heavenly sovereign from the Songnan orphans to be chosen as disciples by the already awakened great Xia gods. Of course, in the words of the night watchman, these 12 children were all agents of the great Xia gods. From the timeline at that time, the great Xia gods had not yet completely sealed themselves off to focus on repairing the source of the heavenly court. Accepting these 12 children as their agents was likely the last thing they did before sealing themselves. They knew very well that once they began to repair the source of the heavenly court, they could not interrupt, so to be safe they took these children as disciples in advance. If everything went smoothly once they repaired the source of the heavenly court, these children could act as agents to protect Great Xia. If any unforeseen events occurred during this process, these children would become their successors. 12 Songnan orphans, 12 children, 12 agents of the great Xia gods. This was a seed that had been planted 5 years ago. Just then Lin Chia seemed to think of something. You were all born in that 10-year span, which means the oldest among you should only be 15 now? Lin Chia looked at the young man in front of him in surprise. I'm 17 this year. Fang Yimou smiled. After my master awakened, he took us into a mysterious space where the flow of time is different from the outside world. We trained there for 3 years while only 1 year passed outside. And I was the first to come out among the 12 siblings. Chapter 838. The Disappearing Heavenly Court. Lin Chia nodded and continued to ask, what about the others? They're still too young. The masters have kept them in that mysterious space for training. That space has its own restrictions and we can only leave on our own when we turn 17. Fang Mo's birth date was just 1 day apart from the opening date of the mortal realm 15 years ago, making him the oldest among all the children. It was only natural that he was the first to come out of that space. What about the great summer god? Where are they now? Lin Chia asked the question that was on his mind. Fang Yimou hesitated for a moment and shook his head. I don't know. After bringing us into that mysterious space, the masters left. Since I turned 17 and came out of that space, I haven't seen them again. Even the golden shadow among the mountains has disappeared. All that remains in that mountain range is our cave. Disappeared. Lin Chia was taken aback. From a time perspective, Fang Yimou and the others had been training in that mysterious space for 3 years, while a year had passed in the outside world. This meant that a year ago, after the great summer god sent these children into the mysterious space, they vanished along with the heavenly court? At that moment, Lin Chia recalled what Xiaopinggu had said to him while they were stationed in the capital. The great summer god is no longer in the great summer. Where had they taken the heavenly court during this year? After entering the master's sect, the master also revealed the truth about Songnan to us. He often told us that our existence is all thanks to Lord Lin Chia. Fang Yimou said sincerely, our souls, lives and childhoods were all given to us by Lord Chia. He hopes that we can follow in Lord Chia's footsteps in the future, to be your swords and knives. We all greatly admire Lord Chia. Seeing the admiration in Fang Mo's eyes, Lin Chia felt a bit embarrassed but still tried to maintain a serious expression and said, regardless, your current identity is that of a night watcher. Following the spirit and duties of a night watcher is the top priority, understand? Understood. Alright, go to sleep. This should be your last peaceful sleep for quite a long time. Starting tomorrow, your days will be very difficult. A train rushed along the tracks, wailing through the night. The night was deep, and the lights in the carriage gradually dimmed, leaving only faint indicator lights emitting a soft glow. At the end of the hard sleeper area, where 2 carriages connected, several plain-clothed migrant workers sat on urea sacks, resting their heads against the train's wall, their bodies swaying gently with the train's movements. Amid the low, noisy creaking of the carriage, they hung their heads and had already fallen asleep. In a corner of this group, a young boy leaned against the door of the carriage, gazing up at the moonlight through the round glass of the door, lost in thought. Lu Baoyu had been away from home for so long, and the money he earned on the road was nearly spent. He had thought that once he arrived in the capital he wouldn't need any money, but unexpectedly he was expelled from the training camp and had no choice but to head back. The money he had left was not enough to buy a hard sleeper or hard seat, so he could only barely afford a standing ticket and a small bucket of instant noodles. As the train moved, the moon outside gradually receded, disappearing from Lu Baoyou's view. He sighed helplessly, closed his eyes and slowly drifted into sleep. Just as he was about to fall asleep, a sharp and noisy cry of a child erupted from the carriage behind him, disturbing everyone's drowsiness. Lu Baoyu instinctively frowned, a surge of rage rising within him. He turned to look back at the carriage behind him and saw a child pointing at the instant noodles in a man's hand next to him, crying loudly. A hint of crimson flickered deep in his eyes. But in the end he still didn't get up. Instead he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and forcibly suppressed the irritation and anger within. Amid the child's unreasonable cries, Lu Baoyu's heart returned to calm. "Are you willing?" A voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Lu Baoyu's eyes snapped open. He looked around, but in the dim carriage no one was speaking to him. Lu Baoyu turned his head, his gaze falling on the window beside him. In the reflection of the glass, he noticed that his left eye had turned pitch black, and a face was faintly visible in his gaze. It was the face of the ancient god cult member who had self-destructed in the training camp. "Who are you?" Lu Baoyu's eyes turned crimson as he growled. "You can call me Demon Child. I come from the ancient god cult." The voice spoke slowly in Lu Baoyu's ear. "Don't be nervous. I'm just temporarily attaching my soul to your eye. I can't control your body and won't harm you. I just want to chat." "I don't need to chat, get lost." Lu Baoyu's voice rose slightly, waking the sleeping people around him. They looked at Lu Baoyu with puzzled expressions. Lu Baoyu gritted his teeth, stood up from the ground and ran into the restroom, locking the door behind him. He looked at his pitch-black left eye in the mirror, the crimson glow in his gaze growing stronger, exuding a violent and fierce aura of a fallen angel. "Don't bother, you're just a rookie at the pool level. Even with fallen angel powers, you can't drive me out of your eyes." The demon child sneered. "What do you want?" Lu Baoyu punched the mirror, shattering his reflection. The broken glass cut into his flesh and blood dripped from his palm into the sink. "Are you interested in joining the ancient god cult?" The demon child's voice was filled with temptation. "Your potential shouldn't be buried. The Night Watchers are a bunch of rigid, stubborn and petty people. Someone like you can never fit in with them. You are a demon with fallen angel powers and should stay in your rightful place. Come to the ancient god cult. Here you will find your kind. No one will criticize your personality and no one will constrain your actions with ridiculous justice and morality. Here you can act recklessly. We can even use the power of the cult to help you kill Lin Chia." "Heh." Lu Baoyu sneered upon hearing this. "So you want to recruit me?" "Exactly. The ancient god cult is the organization where those who were defeated by Lin Chia in one move belong." A mocking smile appeared on Lu Baoyu's lips. Hearing this, the demon child's voice paused, then spoke coldly. "Kid, you'd better show some respect." "Did I say something wrong?" Lu Baoyu straightened his body. "You made such a big fuss at the training camp, yet ended up in such a miserable state. If you're not trash, then who is?" Chapter 839. We are not of the same kind. You. Hearing this, the demon child was about to explode with anger. Lu Baoyu squinted slightly, looking at his reflection in the shattered mirror, and said calmly, "It seems you were telling the truth. In your current state you really can't do anything to me. Are you testing me?" "Heh." Lu Baoyu casually pulled out a few tissues from the side and wiped the blood off his hands. "You've misunderstood one thing. I am not of the same kind as you useless bunch." Ding. The train entered a tunnel and the bathroom door opened. Lu Baoyu calmly walked out, his figure passing through the dimly lit corridor, returning to a corner of the carriage that emitted a faint glow, where he sat cross-legged. He slowly closed his eyes. Ding 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 ding. The piercing sound of a bell echoed through the training camp, waking all the new recruits from their dreams. They sat up in confusion, glancing out at the still dark night and then at the clock hanging on the wall, which read exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. "Everyone gather at the parade ground in 3 minutes." Lin Chia's calm voice echoed through the dormitory via the intercom. "Are you kidding? It's only 3 o'clock. Even the roosters aren't awake yet. What time did we go to sleep?" "The lights went out at 9 last night, but we played for a while before sleeping, probably around 10? That means we've only slept for 5 hours. Hurry up. Get dressed and go to the parade ground. 3 minutes is too rushed, right?" The dormitory, which had been silent, suddenly became noisy. The majority of the new recruits immediately sat up, grumbling while quickly getting dressed. After all, the impression left by the Nightfall team yesterday was too deep, and the fear in their hearts told them that if they were late, something very bad might happen. Of course, where there are diligent people, there are also lazy ones. Some new recruits took their time getting out of bed, yawning while putting on their clothes, trailing far behind the main group as they ran toward the parade ground. On the high platform of the parade ground, 7 figures draped in deep red cloaks stood calmly, watching the chaotic new recruits below. Lin Chia glanced at the time, his eyes narrowing slightly. Anyone who arrives after 3 minutes, step forward automatically. The new recruits below exchanged glances and some shrugged, stepping out on their own. However, among the crowd, a small number of recruits stood there as if they hadn't heard, hoping to slip by unnoticed. Lin Chia glanced at them, said nothing and simply raised a finger. Swish, 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 swish. Thick strands of spider silk suddenly fell from the sky, instantly wrapping around those recruits mixed in with the crowd, binding them up in the air in the blink of an eye. Amidst the terrified screams, all the recruits who arrived later than 3 minutes and did not step forward were turned into spider zombies, suspended above in a web. This sudden scene startled the surrounding recruits. "I don't have time to teach you what discipline is," Lin Chia said calmly beneath the menacing Sun Wukong mask. "As I said yesterday, you are not about to become new recruits of the Night Watch. You are already Night Watchmen. Night Watchmen must pay the price for their actions. In real war, that price is often your life. Here, I will use another form to replace your death." Lin Chia gave a look to Aju. The recruits suspended in the spider web were swiftly pulled toward a small warehouse at the edge. The spider silk broke in midair, and under the force of inertia, those recruits flew straight toward the warehouse. At the same time, dozens of terrifyingly grotesque mysteries excitedly grabbed the bound recruits from the ground, cheering and rushing into the warehouse amidst their terrified screams. Their expressions resembled bandits who had just captured a beautiful woman, eager to rush into the warehouse. As their eerie laughter echoed, the warehouse door slammed shut, followed by the recruits' screams rising to a new level, as if they were experiencing something extremely terrifying, wailing in agony. "No. Don't. Stay away from me. Let me go. I'm begging you. No. No, absolutely not there. Ah. Just kill me." The new recruits on the parade ground turned pale upon hearing those heart-wrenching cries. Just hearing those sounds conjured countless bloody and tragic images in their minds, especially for those who were late who couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. "Everyone go to the side to collect your weights. Those who are late will receive double." Amidst the distant tragic cries, Lin Chia said, "1 minute." Upon hearing 1 minute, everyone rushed to the side to grab their weights, quickly returning, fearing that if they were even half a second late, they would be dragged into the warehouse by those mysteries. Though they didn't know what was happening in that warehouse, just hearing the screams made it clear that it was definitely not a good thing. Within 1 minute, all the new recruits had strapped on their weights and stood neatly in the center of the parade ground. Lin Chia nodded slightly, raised his hand again, and one by one figures dressed in deep green caretaker uniforms emerged from various directions, surrounding the new recruits from behind. "Today's training is very simple. You all played cat and mouse as kids, right?" Lin Chia pointed to the nearly 100 caretakers behind them. "They are the cats and you are the mice. Any recruits caught by them before 3 o'clock this afternoon will end up just like those who went in earlier, locked in that warehouse. The sooner you get caught, the longer you'll be tormented. If you haven't been caught by 3 o'clock this afternoon, congratulations, you won't have to go into the little black room. During this process you cannot use the forbidden ruins, nor can you actively attack them. All you can do is escape. You can use anything available in this training camp to help you escape. Hiking, high-altitude rope descents, obstacle crossings. Do you all understand?" The new recruits below exchanged glances, seeing the tension and panic in each other's eyes. In the adjacent small warehouse, the screams of the first batch of recruits who had been dragged in grew louder, sending chills down their spines. This was not training. This was a matter of life and death. "Do you understand?" Lin Chia shouted again. "Understood." "Good." Lin Chia nodded. "Then training begins." Chapter 840. Escape Training. A sharp whistle echoed above the training camp, and all the new recruits on the playground frantically scattered in all directions. The attendants surrounding them grinned menacingly and quickly pursued. Thus began a grand and thrilling chase. Lin Chia and the others stood on the empty playground, finally starting to communicate. Chia, did we wake up this early just to stand here? Bai Li Pang Pang yawned. It's only 3 in the morning. I was so sleepy I could have dozed off standing up. After all, it's the first day of training. We need to be present to establish some authority, and Qingyu explained. But after this we won't have much to do. We just need to prepare lunch for them at 10. Qingyu, how did the meal plan discussion with the instructors go last night? Lin Chia asked as if recalling something. It's basically settled, but it's a bit complicated to prepare, and Qingyu shrugged. We need to ensure the food is nutritious enough to meet the training needs of the recruits, but also ensure it tastes bad. Is that too complicated? Do we really need to go that far? We do, Lin Chia nodded decisively. Most of these recruits have lived comfortable lives and haven't experienced hardship. But if they really end up on the battlefield, there won't be such lavish and delicious meals waiting for them. We need to break their lower limits of food acceptance here so that when they face extreme environments, their chances of survival will be higher. But they are still new recruits. Even if war really comes, the ones going to the battlefield first will be the more experienced night watchers. They will mostly just take over the duties of the veterans stationed in various cities. They might not actually see combat, Chao Yuan pondered. What if one day all the veterans are killed in battle? Chao Yuan was taken aback. No one knows how long this war will last or how many will sacrifice. Regardless, we need to prepare for the worst. Chao Yuan fell silent for a moment and nodded. You're right. I'll take care of the next steps. You all go back and catch up on some sleep and prepare for your respective classes tomorrow, Lin Chia said, turning to look at the distant sounds of surprise. Understood. Roar, roar, roar. A mysterious roar echoed above the training camp. Quick! Another one is chasing us from behind. Run faster. No way, there's a large open space in front of the teaching building. Without any obstacles, we'll be caught soon. I can't anymore. I'm so tired I can't run. Let's find a place to rest for a bit. Rest? We've only been running for half an hour. Bro, we're being chased. Running for our lives is exhausting. How about this? When we turn the corner ahead, we jump over the wall to the teaching building and hide in a classroom. It shouldn't be able to find us. Okay. Several new recruits dashed into the teaching building, their eyes immediately locking onto a classroom at the end of the corridor. They glanced back and saw that the mysterious creature hadn't caught up yet, then hurriedly dove into the classroom and locked the door behind them. This classroom was located at the innermost part of the teaching building, with only a small window. The group leaned against the wall in the corner by the window, slowly sitting down and gasping for breath. From the beginning until now, they had been running frantically under the pursuit of the mysterious creature. Although the creature chasing them was only at the pool level, they had no choice but to run for their lives since it couldn't attack them directly. Hey, this place seems pretty hidden, one of the recruits looked around and whispered. I think so too. That mysterious creature seems to have lost track of us. We should be safe. How about we just hide here until the afternoon training ends? That's exactly what I was thinking. The recruits quickly agreed, their expressions relaxing. Avoiding the pursuit of these mysterious creatures was exhausting. After just half an hour, their stamina was nearly depleted, and with 11.5 hours left until the end of their escape, they had little chance of holding out until then. Just thinking about that terrifying little storage room filled with screams sent a chill down their spines. No, they absolutely couldn't be caught by these mysterious creatures. They would hide here until the end of time. Jia 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 jia. A sinister and eerie laughter came from behind the recruits. The recruits jolted, quickly looking up at the small window in the classroom. They saw a shadow in a dark green attendant uniform slowly standing upright on the windowsill, the dawn light casting a menacing and towering shadow on the classroom wall. The recruits' pupils dilated in shock. Have we been discovered? How is that possible? No other mysterious creature should have seen us when we came in. Isn't this a visual blind spot? How did it find us standing outside the window? Quick! Run! Several recruits sprang up from the ground, rushing toward the classroom door. Just then, the door swung open automatically, revealing a pale giant spider quietly perched at the entrance, its crimson compound eyes glinting ominously as it stared at them. Ah! Seeing the spider, the recruits' fear levels skyrocketed. This was the same spider that had terrified them during the initial assessment and had a reputation for capturing people and tossing them into the dark little storage room. All the recruits felt extreme dread. Among all the mysterious creatures in this training camp, this spider was the last one any recruit wanted to encounter head-on. It embodied the deepest fears of the recruits. As they collided with Zhu, several recruits were so frightened that they rolled their eyes and fainted on the spot. A few bolder ones turned and dashed toward the windowsill where another mysterious creature was, hoping to escape to a different place. However, at that moment several strands of spider silk shot out from Zhu, instantly binding all the recruits in the classroom and sticking them to a massive web in the sky outside, swaying in the wind. Ha! Outside the window, the mysterious creature that had first frightened the recruits let out a sigh of relief, patting its chest as it stepped out from the shadows. It was a raccoon. Minister, why do I have to laugh like, jia 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 jia? It sounds so strange when I do that. The raccoon rubbed its face, which had become stiff from trying to look fierce, and asked in confusion.